Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha with Ice Cream Fitness here. And a couple days ago I did something that I have not done in a very long time. I recorded one of my training sessions, and for reference I'm going to link that video here, I'm going to link it down below. I recorded a full training session and it raised a lot of questions from subscribers. And I'm going to answer what seemed to be one of the most commonly asked questions. But hold on, let me give you guys a bicep shot first. Now, what people were asking was, can someone train on my type of training frequency or training style as a natural? And I think that is an excellent question. And my answer to that question is, yes, absolutely, it can be done, but there are some caveats to this. First of all, you're going to need quite a bit of training experience. You're going to need that so that you know how to learn to listen to your body and watch for certain signs, cues, that you know how to perform your lifts correctly, and that you've developed a decent base foundation, a strong core, things like that. Because you're going to get very fatigued and you're going to be prone to errors and mistakes. And when you start lifting heavy frequently, form breakdowns, when you start snapping tendons, damaging joints, things like that. So you're going to need that. Also, you're going to need to have that experience for purposes of workload tolerance, because you can develop workload tolerance over time. You can't just jump in and start squatting 5 or 6 days a week 6 months after you start lifting. It's not going to work well. You have to build up to these things. And I would say that it takes your body about 3 weeks to adapt to small changes in training load and training volume. So every 3 weeks you could slightly bump up frequency and workload and volume, and your body will adapt. So you could go to a full body system 3 days a week, and a lot of people will struggle and flounder, and they'll lose strength, particularly on their later lifts, for the first 2 weeks, and then after 3 weeks they'll start making gains again and they'll adapt. But that's what it takes. It takes your body about that long to properly adapt to a new stimulus like that. So you're going to have run several different cycles of those 3 week things to do this. So I wouldn't even jump in and start training full body 6 or 7 days a week. I would run something like full body 3 times a week for 6 months or a year, and then gradually start adding in days and even half a days, so that you're not even working your full body on that extra day yet. Just over time, spend 3 week and 6 week periods adding a little bit in as you go. Now, the other thing that you're going to need to watch, if you're natural, you're going to have to pay very close attention to deloads. Now, I've done a lot of videos discussing signs of deloads. For enhanced lifters, there's a very simple solution. When they're pushing themselves to a point where they almost need a deload and they're overreaching a little too much, they just up the dose. Or they add another drug to the stack. They throw some orals in and blast that for another 3 weeks on top of whatever they're running. They're running an all-injectable stack, they'll throw in some D-Bol or Anavar or something else for 3 weeks, so that they can push out another 3 weeks of gains, and they'll come off those orals and they'll deload. As a natural, you're not going to have that option. That option is not available. And if you mistime that, you're going to start running into problems. So when you start noticing the various signs of chronic overreaching, you start getting sore connective tissue, sore joints, and you're using a training system like this, you can't sit there and wait another week or 2 weeks to deload. You're going to overreach, you're going to regress, you're possibly going to set yourself up for injury. So if you're going to run this type of system like I'm doing, you're going to have to be very aware of your body. You're going to have to be very aware of when you have inflamed connective tissue, inflamed joints, and when it is time to take a deload. And you're not going to have very much, if any, margin for error on that. If you go in and you train 2 or 3 days more after you're seeing signs of needing a deload on a system like that, and you're using no drugs to strengthen your connective tissue, you're running the risk that you're going to snap a tendon, and you're going to snap something off the bone and either partially or fully tear a muscle. So that's what you need to be aware of. You can absolutely run a system like this. You're going to need to do that. And the other thing that you guys have to watch out for, and guys who are used to doing body part splits do this because they can get away with it. But if you're training on a system like this, muscle failure is not an option. You're going to have to very much pay attention to what you are capable of lifting day to day, and you're always going to have to stop short of failure. If you start missing lifts, and as a power lifter, what I call missing a lift is what you guys call training to failure. We call it missing a lift. You failed. You fucked up. You tried to do a rep that you couldn't do. We don't call that training to failure, we call that a failure. And if you're training at this type of frequency and you start missing lifts, you're going to have to start taking extra days off. A missed deadlift or a missed squat might mean instead of training 7 days that week, you're going to have to cut 1 or 2 days off after you miss that, because when you come in the next day, you may not have any strength left to actually get a good workout. So that's the other thing you're going to also need to be aware of. So you're going to need the training experience and the foundation built. You're going to need to pay very close attention to modulating your workload and volume, and pay attention when you need to deload. And you're going to have to make sure that you are using the RPE scale correctly and you are not training to failure, other than as a rare accident, and then adjusting appropriately for it. So those are the 3 things that you will need to watch out for training at this type of frequency, doing full body 5, 6, 7 days a week if you are a natural lifter. And that would hold true whether you're bodybuilding or powerlifting. Alright guys, so that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it has been informative, and I will talk to you next time.